Before you see it, you hear it. Not the familiar howl of a wolf echoing across a frozen valley, but something far deeper. A low, earth-shaking growl that rolls through the mountains like distant thunder. Hunters who have heard it say the sound doesn't just reach your ears, it vibrates through your chest, freezing your body before your mind even understands the danger. Deep within the remote Nahanni Valley in northern Canada, there are places where experienced trappers refuse to enter once winter arrives. Before leaving the forest, they place a portion of their kill at the edge of the trees. Outsiders often believe it's some ancient ritual for spirits. It isn't. It's a payment, a silent agreement with a predator that is very real. According to generations of local stories, as long as the offering remains, the beast stays in the mountains. But if nothing is left behind, it comes searching on its own. Witnesses describe an animal unlike any wolf ever recorded. Taller than a man standing on all fours, heavier than the largest gray wolf. Some even insist it is larger than an African lion. For centuries, people have whispered about the giant wolf that rules the frozen wilderness. And the deeper we investigate those whispers, the harder they become to dismiss. From high above, these mountains appear completely lifeless. Endless fields of white snow stretch to every horizon, interrupted only by black cliffs and frozen rivers that haven't moved for months. To anyone flying overhead, it looks like a world where nothing could possibly survive. But the view from the sky is a lie. Beneath the dense canopy of ancient pine forests, hidden inside narrow valleys and deep ravines where sunlight barely reaches even in summer, an entirely different world exists. Temperatures fall far below freezing, snow buries entire forests, and silence dominates everything. Yet this silence is alive. Moose carve hidden paths beneath the snow. Caribou migrate through corridors no satellite can fully track. Wolverines, lynx, and bears disappear into places humans may never discover. Scientists estimate that enormous sections of these northern mountain ranges remain almost impossible to study during winter. Helicopters cannot land safely. Drones lose signal inside the valleys. Expeditions are forced to turn back after violent storms or deadly avalanches. There are thousands of square kilometers where no human footprints appear for years at a time. If a predator larger than any known wolf had managed to survive into the modern world, this would be exactly the kind of place it would choose. A frozen kingdom hidden in plain sight, protected not by walls, but by nature itself. Legends usually change as they travel from one generation to the next. Names become different, details are forgotten, and stories slowly turn into myths. But something unusual happens in the frozen north. Indigenous communities, separated by thousands of kilometers, with different languages and traditions, describe almost the same creature. The Inuit speak of Amarok, a gigantic wolf that walks alone and fears no other predator. Far to the south, the Dene people tell stories of Wahila, a massive white wolf so powerful that even bears avoid its territory. Neither culture describes a pack. Both insist the animal hunts alone because it simply doesn't need help. Elders say it can outrun a frightened caribou through deep snow, drag a full-grown moose across frozen rivers, and crush bone with a single bite powerful enough to break a spine. These stories were never told to entertain children around a campfire. They were survival lessons. Young hunters learned where not to build camp, which valleys should be avoided after sunset, and why strange tracks in fresh snow meant it was time to leave immediately. To outsiders, these accounts sound like folklore, but to the people who have lived in these mountains for countless generations, they describe an animal that has always been part of the wilderness. And when different cultures preserve nearly identical descriptions for centuries, the question becomes impossible to ignore. Were they all imagining the same impossible beast? Or were they describing something they had truly seen? By the late 1800s, gold prospectors and fur trappers had begun pushing deeper into the northern wilderness. Many kept detailed journals, recording weather, wildlife, and strange encounters. Among those pages appeared reports that sounded impossible. One trapper described finding tracks nearly 20 centimeters wide, almost twice the size of an ordinary wolf's paw print. Another wrote that an entire adult caribou disappeared overnight from his camp, dragged across the snow by something powerful enough to leave a trench behind it. None of these men called the animal a monster. They simply described what they saw. But when their reports reached universities and government offices, the response was almost always the same. Scientists insisted wolves could never reach such a size. They argued the tracks belonged to bears, and the witnesses had simply made mistakes in fear or poor weather. Yet the men who lived in those mountains every day knew the difference between a bear and a wolf. The conflict had begun, not between truth and fiction, but between those who studied nature from distant offices and those who survived inside it. At first, the idea of a wolf larger than a lion sounds impossible, but biology tells a more interesting story. Scientists have long known about Bergmann's rule, a principle stating that animals living in colder climates often grow much larger than their relatives in warmer regions. A bigger body loses heat more slowly, making survival easier during brutal winters. We already see this pattern in bears, moose, and even modern wolves. Now imagine an isolated mountain valley with thousands of moose and caribou, almost no human presence, and little competition from other large predators. Generation after generation, the biggest and strongest wolves would have the greatest chance to survive and reproduce. Over hundreds or even thousands of years, natural selection could push their size far beyond what we normally expect. Suddenly, the impossible begins to look surprisingly logical. A giant wolf may sound like fantasy today, but Earth was once home to predators even larger. During the Ice Age, North America was ruled by the dire wolf, a species far heavier and more powerful than the gray wolves we know today. Other prehistoric members of the canine family grew even bigger. Scientists believe they disappeared thousands of years ago. Or did they? In 2018, researchers uncovered the perfectly preserved head of an ancient wolf from Siberian permafrost. The animal had died over 40,000 years ago, yet its massive skull, teeth, and fur remained almost untouched by time. Its head was nearly twice the size of a modern wolf's. Holding that discovery in their hands, scientists weren't looking at a myth. They were looking at proof that gigantic wolves once walked this planet. And if nature created them once, could a small population have survived where almost no human has ever looked? The mystery didn't end with old legends. Even today, strange discoveries continue to surface. Rangers and hunters occasionally find moose torn apart in ways that don't match the hunting style of bears or ordinary wolf packs. Some carcasses have been dragged hundreds of meters across deep snow by an animal of incredible strength. Then, there are the trail camera images. Most are blurry, captured at night or during snowstorms, but a few reveal something unsettling: a silhouette with the posture of a wolf, yet standing noticeably taller than any known species. The most intriguing clues come from environmental DNA, or eDNA. By analyzing tiny traces of genetic material left in snow, water, or soil, scientists can identify animals without ever seeing them. In a few remote locations, researchers have reportedly found canine DNA that doesn't perfectly match any known living wolf population. It's far from proof, but it's enough to keep the mystery alive. If a wolf this enormous exists, why hasn't anyone captured clear footage? The answer may be simpler than it seems. Look at the snow leopard. It's one of the largest predators in Asia, yet scientists spent decades trying to film it in the wild. Some individuals live their entire lives without ever being seen by a human. A giant mountain wolf would have the same advantage. One animal could control a territory covering thousands of square kilometers, moving mostly at night through forests, cliffs, and valleys where people rarely travel. It would hear us long before we heard it, smell us long before we saw it. And if it truly learned to avoid humans over generations, finding one would be like searching for a shadow inside a blizzard. Sometimes, the greatest proof isn't that we can't see something, but that nature has become incredibly good at hiding it. Whether this giant wolf exists or not, one fact is impossible to ignore. The wilderness it would call home is disappearing. Rising temperatures are melting snow earlier every year, while roads, mines, and logging operations push deeper into remote mountain forests. Places that remained untouched for thousands of years are becoming smaller and more fragmented. If an isolated population of giant predators still survives, its greatest enemy isn't another animal, it's us. As humans expand into these landscapes, encounters become more likely. The creature doesn't need to hunt people to become dangerous. It only needs to defend the territory where its species has lived long before our arrival. Perhaps the greatest mystery isn't whether the giant wolf still exists, but whether we'll destroy its world before we ever learn the truth. Night falls over the frozen mountains. Snow drifts across endless forests, and the wind moves through the trees like a slow breath of something ancient. Somewhere beyond the reach of roads and lights, there is only darkness and distance. You look into that emptiness and realize something unsettling. It is not empty at all. It is watching itself. If a giant wolf still walks these valleys, it will not reveal itself on command, and it will not answer to curiosity. It exists on its own terms, shaped by ice, silence, and survival. And maybe that is the most terrifying part. Not that it is a monster, not that it is real, but that it doesn't care whether we believe in it or not. Somewhere behind the tree line, in the endless white, the forest keeps its secrets. And for now, we are allowed only to wonder.